Hey guys, welcome to the web design course, first day, which we are conducting as part of the Learn from Home program by TinkerHub Foundation. And yeah, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a fourth year BTech student at Shankar Institute of Engineering and Technology at Kaladi, and I've been learning web design for about 6 years. I started learning it on my own. I didn't do any courses. I learned it from a website called w3schools.com. I'll be using the website later during the courses, so you'll see the website then. Yeah, so these are some of the tools that I've used before. Bootstrap and Material Design, which is basically a front end. Use it for designing, make the design process easier and also like uniform. And then I'm also good with React, Vue, and Angular frameworks. They are popular front end frameworks. And in the backend, I use PHP, Node.js, and Python. I used to use PHP a lot. That's what I started with, but I don't use it a lot now. I'm more experienced with Node.js nowadays. I haven't used PHP in a while. And I'm also learning Python, how to use Python as a backend language. And some of the other frameworks I'd use are Express, Material UI, and Flask. I'm pretty new to Python and Flask, so yeah, I just mentioned all these so that if any of you have any doubts regarding any of these designs, if any of these tools, frameworks, uh, like if you already use them and you're trying to learn them and you don't, if you have some doubts at some point, like during the course or later, you can contact me. Yeah, so about the course, these are the topics we'll be covering: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, material design, Firebase hosting. I know I asked a lot of you to create an HTML page as a selection process. We did that because we received about like 500 applications. I guess more than that. Let me check. Yeah, we got about 500 applications, and I cannot really mentor that whole group closely, so we had to select just a few people who uh, who showed like interest in learning the course. So that's why we gave the HTML document thing as as like a task. And also the GitHub thing would be in a plus, that which I think a lot of you learned for doing this selection process. So like I also think a few of you learned HTML just to participate in this process. So yeah, that shows your interest in learning, and you were able to learn HTML and GitHub in a small time frame. So that really shows how you're interested in learning. So that's what we were looking for. And those selected, I guess 44 people were put into a closed mentoring group, uh, which I'll talk about later. Anyway, so I know most of you already know HTML, and I'll still be taking HTML in the course. So if you already know HTML, or if you already know any of these, hoping that a lot of you don't know Firebase hosting. That's what I think, which I didn't see in a lot of people. If you know any of these, if you already know any of these, feel free to skip those videos. But I'd still recommend you just brush through the videos. Like you might find something that you already don't know. Like you might have missed something when you're learning from wherever you're learning. So uh, yeah, try, and if you want you can skip, but just go through the videos that I'll be posting. So yeah, I'll be making recorded videos like these every day for you guys. So, I don't anyway, yeah, I'll be recording these videos. That's how I'll be taking the course, and after I'll be uploading them on YouTube, and I'll give the link in the Slack groups, and you can watch the video, learn. And I would recommend, we'll be doing a project along with the course, so I recommend you do that as you watch the video. And yeah, I'll be releasing the video every morning. And I know I told a lot of you, some of you guys, that I'll be uploading like at 7 a.m. in the morning, but I didn't do it today because I had some other work to do and I woke up late. So yeah, first day and I was late. But I'll try my best to publish it as early as possible, because me personally, I think morning is the best time to learn. And you guys might have other preferences, so that's why I'm uploading it on YouTube whenever you're free, if whenever you're free, or whenever is your preferred time for learning. You can just look up the video on YouTube and start learning. So yeah, this gives you the time flexibility. And also, whenever you want to refer whatever you learn, like later on after the course, say you want to refer to whatever I taught during this course, you can go to the YouTube video, which I will try make sure that I don't delete those videos, so you can refer them whenever you want. And about the Slack groups, we have created two groups. Like I said, we did the selection process, and 44 people were selected, which we have added to the closed mentorship group. And those of you who weren't selected, you can still do the course like the others, and you've been added as part of the public group. I hope you all got the emails. And yeah, the reason why we did two groups is, like I said before, I cannot closely mentor all of you. There are about 500 people. I cannot closely mentor all of them, and I'll try my best to clear all the doubts that come in this group. And whenever I'm free after that, I'll also clear the doubts that you guys put in the public group. And also, something I noticed during the selection process is that a lot of you already know some of these stuff, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some of you also use stuff like tools, frameworks similar to material design, like Bootstrap and all that. So even if you know all this and you submitted during the selection process, you're still added to the closed mentorship group. And I hope that these people can help me clear the doubts in the closed mentorship as well as the public group, because some of you are really pretty good at these stuff. I don't know why you actually joined the course, but yeah, I'm hoping you will get something from the course. Like, I can teach you something even though you know these technologies. I'm hoping that a lot majority of you, I'm hoping all of you are new to this Firebase hosting and Node.js, npm. I'll be touching on those technologies when we cover this. Yeah, so if you already know this, or if you're learning in the morning and some people ask doubts in the evening, I hope you can help me out by clearing those doubts in the Slack public group and closed mentorship groups, whichever we have access to. So yeah, that's what I meant by this mentorship help. I cannot always clear everyone's doubt. Like, say there are a lot of doubts coming up, I won't be able to manage all of them, so I hope that you can help me out here. uh, yeah, so as a part of the course we'll be doing two projects. One of the projects we'll be doing as we learn, because that's something I prefer when teaching. I've conducted workshops before, and it's always like much more effective to learn stuff when we are, like practicing it as we learn. So I'll be doing a project as we're learning these technologies, so you can do the same project as well with me as you watch the video. And that'll be for the first week. On the second week you will be asked to do another project, which I'll talk about later. You'll be asked to do a project and submit it, and as soon as you submit and we review your project, you will be getting the certification of completion. So yeah, it's highly recommended that you do this, but this is the mandatory project. So yeah, moving on, this will be the schedule for the first week. Day one, that's today. I'll just be giving an introduction, some little theory. It might get boring, but it is necessary. This theory, I want you guys to know this and always think about it when you're developing. It's like just the basic stuff. It's good to keep this theory in mind when you're developing websites. It's really helpful. And then I'll be showing you an IDE, which is an integrated development environment, which just it is basically like your notepad with all sorts of different features that help you make websites faster, or whatever you're programming in. If you're making an app, if there's an IDE specific to that, like Android Studio is an IDE for developing Android apps. So yeah, you can actually develop an Android app just using Notepad or Gedit or whatever, just the basic Notepad text editor. But these IDEs make it really easier, much easier than using the Notepad. That's why we'll be using an IDE called VS Code, and I'll show you that later. Tomorrow we'll be looking at so this is the project that I will be doing as I am teaching the course. We'll be creating a resume page kind of a thing, or a portfolio page. So on day 2 we'll be just creating a basic HTML page, a resume. Just it would probably look just like a resume that you make using Word or whatever text editor you use. On day 3 we'll be styling it, we'll be applying different fonts or colors and all that. That's what we'll be looking on day 3. In day 4 we'll be adding certain functionalities to the resume, like when you press a particular thing, something happens and all that, using JavaScript. That's what JS stands for. And then we'll be using Material Design Lite. So we could make a website with all these things from scratch. Like we can code everything ourselves, but there are some things that some elements that we commonly use, that we use repeatedly, that we don't have. So those things are there in Material Design Lite, so we don't have to code code that element every time we use it. So the Material Design Lite makes these two processes easier, styling and JavaScript. And then we'll be hosting the website, which basically means we'll be making the website you made accessible to everyone with an internet connection using Firebase. I think I'll talk about Firebase or during this day. I don't want to introduce a lot of technical stuff right now. Yeah, about the final project, I'm disclosing this earlier on because I know a lot of you already know a lot of the things that we are teaching here, so you can those people can actually, I mean, even if others, if you have time, which I think most of you do since we are all home, you can start working on this final project, and even if you submit earlier, it's fine. uh, yeah, so we'll be creating the project, we'll be creating a learning resource library, which basically means, yeah, it's like a website which is a collection of learning resources on a particular topic. Like like let's take web designing for example. So you can create a website that has links, or links to other websites that teaches web designing and all that, all those things. Or you can like provide download links to documents like PDFs, ebooks and all that. So like you just choose a topic that you want to create learning resources on, or you can create like a website to website containing resource for any upcoming exam. So if you're like a student in the KTU University, which I am as well, you can create resources for you can create a website that has download links to notes, PPTs and all, helpful resources that can help you and your classmates, anyone from the same year and department as you. They can go to your website and download these resources, and like it helps them, it saves time on searching for these resources. They can just go to your website and download the stuff. So if you're making this website and sharing it with your friends, it will be useful for them. And yeah, since you're hosting it, yeah, this thing, there's no restrictions on how you can make the website. You just have to use HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can use Bootstrap or Material Design, whatever you want. I'm fine with that, but you have to host it on Firebase. Yeah, that is the one requirement that that's the one compulsory thing for this project. And yeah, so the website can either contain links to other websites, or you can provide download links for certain documents, videos or whatever. Or you can like provide links to YouTube videos and all that. And if you want, you can choose multiple topics. That's up to you. Just create a learning resource, a collection of learning resources, and you can share the links that by the end of the course I'll show you how to like host a website and make it available to anyone with an internet connection. So you'll get like a link and you can share it with your friends, and you can get feedback on how the website looks, or if they have any resources, if your friends know any resources that is not on your website, they can show you that and you can put it on your website. And yeah, you can get praises, right? You're helping your friends and they'll probably like you for it. Okay, so let's get into the theory. And today we'll be discussing what basically the World Wide Web is, and what about the World Wide Web we should be concerned about. So the World Wide Web is like a collection of a lot of devices, computers, laptops, servers. I'll tell you what servers are later if you already don't know. And it's like a collection of them, and they are interconnected, they communicate with each other. It's like all these computers are all around the world, and they can communicate regardless of where the location is, as long as they're connected to this thing called the internet, right? And nowadays there are also other small devices like the Internet of Things have like all small devices like let's say a microwave oven or an AC, and all that is connected to the internet. So it's just a connection. The internet, World Wide Web is like a collection of all sorts of devices connected, and like they communicate with each other. But there are two types of devices that we should be concerned about as web designers, and one of them is the client and the server, right? And let's just look into what client is at first. Let's say you open your browser and go to a website, say tinkerhub.org. uh, you are basically a client when you do that. When you open a browser and then you go to a certain website, you are the client, or more specifically, the browser is the client. So if you have multiple browsers, then you have multiple clients on your computer. uh, yeah, when I say a client, it could mean either the user who's looking at the website, or it could mean the browser. I hope you can make it out from the context. Or also, like, say you're on the same browser and then you have two tabs open, tinkerhub.org and bhat.dev. uh, Even then you can consider it as two clients. Okay. This is my website. I just found a convenient way to put this in here. I mean, this is just this just contains a list of websites that I've made in the past. If you want to just check it out, if you can check it out if you want. And this is the TinkerHub website. You can know all about TinkerHub from this website. So yeah, moving on. So yeah, let's say you open your browser and then you click on a website, say bhat.dev in this case. So what the browser basically does is it creates a request, right? It creates something called a request and sends it to the internet. What the request basically does is it searches for who has the code for this website, which computer. Like I showed you in the earlier slide, there are lots of computers in the internet. So the what a request does, it asks for which computer. It tries to locate which computer has the code for this website or whatever information you're searching for, and the internet connects you to the server. So it's not a linear process like this. There's a lot of like processes that go in the background that which we don't need to be concerned about right now. So what it basically does is the browser creates a request, the internet finds which computer contains information and forwards that request to that computer, which we call it as a server. So yeah, so that's basically what a client is. It creates a request, and when it receives a response, which we'll see later, it shows the response. So that's it doesn't have to be a browser. There are other softwares, like you can also use your terminal to create requests and get responses. So anything that does this job can be referred to as a client. Now let's look at what a server is. So a server, as you saw before, has certain information that people need, and the server provides that information to the people, no, or even bots, whatever. So a server is just like a computer that we use, except that it probably doesn't have any input devices or like output devices like a monitor or mouse or keyboard, which usually they don't have those. They don't really need those. It just does one job, that is provide certain information to certain people or just the public or whatever. So it will basically requires just CPU, RAM, and CPU memory and a storage. So that's basically what a server is, and there are certain other differences from a server and our usual computers. The servers are available. It's open 24/7. The server, if the server shuts down, like if say the Facebook server shuts down at during the night, then no one be able to use Facebook in the night. So a server is expected to be open all the time, and it's always expected to be connected to the internet all the time. So like we saw earlier, if a client wants to use wants certain information, it sends the request to the internet, and the internet locates the server that contains that information. So if the server is not connected to the internet, its location cannot be found. So the server has to be connected to the internet all the time. And usually the server does only one job. Like our computers, we can use it for multiple operations. We can do a lot of stuff with our computers, but the server basically exists just to receive those requests and see what the user wants, and see if the user can access that information and give back that response, like give that information back to the client. So these are the three most important things that you should know about a server, and that's what this that's the main difference between a server and regular computers that we use. So okay, let's take an example here. Let's say you take a browser and then you search for like the latest news on coronavirus, and you create a request and it gets sent to a server that serves news, let's say, and the server returns a code. So there's one thing you have to remember: the server can only not the server you can only send and receive textual information. You can only send text through the internet. You cannot really send any other format. That's the only thing you can send. You can only send text. Actually, it's just bits, zeros and ones that you can convert to text, but let's just say text for now. You can basically only send text via the internet. You cannot send anything else. So it's the server is limited by that. So let's say this is the text you get back from the server. A news like the Japanese anti-flu drug proved effective against coronavirus, and then there's the a brief about the news, and then there's a link to learn more about the news. So this is basically what the server can send you. It can just send you a bunch of text. So but right now you are able to make out that this is the heading, this is the body, and this is like a link, but we don't prefer to get our whatever information it is just like this, right? There are certain information that you will need, and you will need it to be in a particular format, like say like this. Here you can clearly make out like much more easily. You can make out what the heading is, what the body is, and this is much more preferable, like a button that you can click to go to the website that has more information, rather than having to copy that URL and pasting it in your browser or whatever. This is what people really need, not just a bunch of text. So how do you so like I said before, the server can only send text, so like this. So how do you turn this into this? That's where HTML comes in. If you can see these highlighted things, these are called HTML tags, which we'll look into the next video, that's tomorrow. So this basically indicates that this is a heading 1 tag. If you use Word or any other word processor, you know that you can use like heading 1, heading 2, normal text like that. So this is basically it's a tag or a code that indicates that this is a heading. So these tags are usually followed by a closing tag. This is a closing tag. This indicates the end of the heading. So what these two indicate is that whatever content that comes between those two is a heading. Similarly, this is a paragraph, so whatever comes between this and this closing tag is a paragraph, and this is an anchor tag, which is basically a link tag, and this button thing creates a button. We'll get more into it later, but I explain this because this is why we use HTML. We cannot this is the only way we can convey to the browser that certain text is should be displayed a certain way. So when the browser sees this, it only shows you this thing. It doesn't show you h1 and slash h1 or anything. It only shows you the content, but it shows you the content in a particular way. So basically this would be a smaller text, this would have a bigger text, and this would show up as a button, right, which you can click and it will take you to this link. So the browser is the one who compiles this and shows you just the relevant information in the style specified here, like this. So this job is done by the browser in the background. So the browser receives this code and then it turns it into this, and this is what we see. So yeah, now let's get into the IDE we'll be using. We'll be using the software VS Code for developing our websites. I've already mentioned this in the closed private group yesterday. I didn't mention it in the public group, I guess. No, I mentioned it in the public group, not the closed group. If you haven't read that message, please go and read that message. Or anyway, just install this software if you haven't installed it already. We'll be using this for making the websites, and this thing makes developing websites way easier. So it will be great if you can install this in your computer. You can go to this link, code.visualstudio.com/download, to download the software, where you can, if you go to the link that I showed before, it contains install packages for Windows or Linux or Mac or whatever you use. The package will be there. You just download them and install them. Since like all different different people use different operating systems, I'm not going to show you how to install that. It should be pretty basic. It isn't going to be that hard. So yeah, download it and install it. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but I'll show you I'll show you what the Visual Studio software looks like. This is the Visual Studio software once you open it, and these are some of the most commonly used functions that we'll be using here. This one shows the folder that you have opened. We'll be creating a folder for a project, right? And we can open that folder as it is rather than opening individual files. So this shows the folder that's opened. It shows the files that are in it, so that we can we can just navigate through the folder here rather than having to go to your file browser and then back. This thing you can use for like searching things in your text. You can replace, I think you know what it means. If you use Git for your project, if you already know that what it is, we are not going to get into what Git is, although I recommend that you learn Git. Yeah, so there are some, if you're using Git in your project, there will be some functions that there'll be some buttons, there'll be features that you can use here for Git. So when you're using Git, you usually use commands to make commits or push and all that. Here you can do it just by clicking instead of using the commands. Here you will be using this is used for debugging. We won't be using it in this course, but you can use Visual Studio Code for all sorts of programming. It doesn't have to be websites. So if you're programming, like say if you're making a Python program, you can use this for running and debugging and all that. And now this is what I wanted you all to see. Visual Studio comes with a lot of features, but sometimes we might need a different feature that is not already there in Visual Studio Code. In that case, this is the place to go. You can search for extensions, which gives you more features than there already is. And sorry, these are some of the extensions that I already have installed. This one is for React and Redux. If you're already using it, I recommend this one. This is a Grammarly extension. Whenever I make websites, I usually do make like spelling errors or grammar errors. So I installed this. If you know what Grammarly is, I think you will understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, this thing basically checks for spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes and shows you how you can correct them inside your code. So it helps you like prevents you from making mistakes. Markdown lint, it's used for making markdown files, which we won't be looking here. We'll look at this later. This for Python debugging, and this for sorting. This is just some functionalities that I didn't find in VS Code, so I installed these. What I want you to really want you to install is this one called Prettier. You can search for Prettier over here, and you can select that. Just make sure you select this one by Esben Peterson, and then there'll be an install button here. Just click install and it'll be installed. After installing it, what I want you to do is go to the settings page, and in search go to on save. Just search for on save and make sure that this box is checked. So I'll show you why we use Prettier, what it basically is. So let's say we have an HTML page. I'll tell you what an HTML page is later. So an HTML page, I'll tell you what it is. It basically contains your HTML code. So let's say there are some code like this. So Visual Studio Code by default has all these they highlight tags with these are just regular text. So let's say I do the H1 thing. I have like different, I put a text in it. So if you see here, this tag is in blue, whereas the normal text is in white. Visual Studio does that by default, and they also do this indentation and all that by default, but I don't really like the default way of styling, so Prettier does it in a more accepted way. I think a lot of people use Prettier, so it'll be in a format that is familiar to a lot of people. So what Prettier does is if you install Prettier, it changes the indentation in this way. And if you prefer it the default way, you don't have to install Prettier, but I would recommend you do this. And with Prettier, you don't have to worry about the indentation. Let's say you're coding something really fast and you don't have time to check the indentation. With Prettier, and if you do the steps that I showed you with Prettier, if you let's say save, how do you save this? I usually use Control S, so I'm going to do that. When you save the file, Prettier automatically does the indentation and all that for you. So that's why you use Prettier. And now, making your code look good isn't it might not be beneficial when you look at it at first, but because most of you will be working on okay, you have to work on your project alone in this course, so it won't mean much to you right now because you're working on small projects and you're working alone. But when you're working on really big projects, it's beneficial for you to have it have the code in a particular way rather than in a mess. And it also helps, like if you're working in a team, uh, having if everyone in the team is following the same indentation and styling way, it helps you to understand the other person's code easier. If you're like working with another person and you're looking into that other person's code, and if it's a mess, it'll be harder for you to understand what that person is trying to do. But if it's in a proper format, you will be able to understand that other person's code much easier. So that's why we use Prettier, and this is basically it for this is basically what you will be need to know right now about Visual Studio Code. So yeah, I'll be ending this session here, and see you guys tomorrow, day 2. I hope you're excited. Anyway, please do install the software. Like I said, we'll be using that software from tomorrow onwards. We'll be I know we didn't do anything here. There's nothing else to do other than installing that software today. I'm sorry. But we'll be looking into HTML tomorrow, and I know there are most of you do know the HTML format. Even then, I recommend you just skip, like you just brush through the video and check if there's anything that you already don't know. So yeah, see you tomorrow.